Nebuchadnezzar's got the statue. He says, when the music plays, everyone bows down. People from all kinds of different nations and all kinds of different religions and all kinds of languages, they are to bow down. And if they didn't bow down, they would be killed. They'd be killed. And so we get to the story. And everyone, as the music plays, bows down, except. Everyone bows down except some of the Jewish people. And I think, man, would we bow down? If the most powerful person in the land, whether it's in the world or in the nation, commanded you to bow down, would you bow down? Would you risk your life? Would you be willing to die and refuse that order? Well, some of the Jews did that. Daniel 3, verse 8, some of the astrologers went to the king and informed on the Jews. They said to King Nebuchadnezzar, "Long live the king. You issued a decree requiring all the people to bow down and worship the golden statue when they hear the sound of the horn, flute, zither, lyre, harp, pipes, and other musical instrument. That decree also states that those who refuse to obey must be thrown into the blazing furnace. But there are some Jews, SMA, see, it speeds things up too, who you have put in charge of the province of Babylon. They pay no attention to you, your majesty. They refuse to serve your gods and do not worship the golden statue you have set up." Now, as we open up the book of Daniel, you have some individuals. You got Daniel and you got SMA, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. And they find favor in the eyes of the king. They are chosen as these wise people and put in positions of authority to be a wise advisor to the king because God's hand was upon them. And so even though they're Jewish, they're put into the king's service. And the other Babylonian leaders are jealous of them. And so in this situation, they rat out SMA. Hey, these guys aren't bowing. And Nebuchadnezzar was furious. Then Nebuchadnezzar flew into a rage, verse 13, and ordered that SMA be brought before him. And when they were brought in, Nebuchadnezzar said to them, "Is it true, SMA, that you refuse to serve my gods or to worship the golden statue I have set up? I will give you one more chance to bow down and worship the statue I have made when you hear the sound of the musical instruments. But if you refuse, you'll be thrown immediately into the blazing furnace. And then, what God will be able to rescue you from my power?" It's almost a taunt. There's no one who will undermine my authority. No one will stand against me. Everyone will bow down. But SMA replied this: "We do not need to defend ourselves before you." Oof. They're the minority in the kingdom. They're defying the army of the king. We don't need to defend ourselves. If we are thrown into the blazing furnace, the God whom we serve is able to save us. Nebuchadnezzar worshiped many different gods. But Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego said, there is a God that is above every God that you worship, that is above you, King Nebuchadnezzar, and he can save us. And I'd imagine the people that are watching this unfold are just thinking, hey, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, where is your God? Like, where is he at? I don't see him. And some people who don't believe in the God that we worship, they might ask the same question. Where's your, if there is a God, why can't we see him? Why doesn't he show himself? Where is he right now? And now we have a standoff. Is your God real or not? Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, if we're thrown in the blazing furnace, the God whom we serve is able to save us. You worship these other gods, but our God will save us, is able to save us, excuse me. He will rescue us from your power, your majesty. But even if he doesn't, we want to make it clear to you, your majesty, that we will never serve your gods or worship the golden statue you have set up. I love this, that Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, they have respect for his authority. They call him your majesty. But they also say, with all due respect, our God is the King of kings and the Lord of lords. And he can save us. And even if he doesn't, we will not worship any other God. And those were some fighting words. Those were some fighting words. Verse 19, Nebuchadnezzar was furious with SMA, that his face became distorted with rage. He commanded the furnace be heated 7 times hotter than usual. No one was going to challenge his authority. The furnace, likely this was a brick kiln, which would operate at about 2,000 degrees Fahrenheit. And it said, let's stoke that thing 7 times hotter, which I don't even know if it's possible, but really the meaning of the text is that they turn it up as much as possible. As much as possible. SMA, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, are you scared? Like, are you scared when the furnace gets turned up? Like, that furnace is for you. And are you going to bow? Are you going to bow down? You know, all they had to do was say, oh yeah, we'll just bow down. Well, and Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, what if you bow down and just bow down but don't mean it? Like, bow down and pretend like you're worshiping the one true God. They say, absolutely. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. SMA, are you scared as the furnace rages? And us, how about us? Are we scared? Are we scared with the present circumstances in our life? Are we scared? As the furnace is cranked up, as COVID stares you down, as bankruptcy may be at your door, as you get the business notice of it shutting down, as your health is wavering, as you might be losing someone special, as your marriage is struggling, are you scared? Are you scared? And it's okay to be scared. But know who is really in control. Who is really all powerful. Verse 20, then he ordered some of the strongest men of his army to bind SMA and throw them in the blazing furnace. So they tied them up, they threw them into the furnace, fully dressed in their pants, turbans, robes, and other garments. And because of his anger, he had demanded such a hot fire in the furnace. The flames killed the soldiers as they threw the 3 men in. So Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, securely tied, fell in the roaring flames, and they went into the fire. What happens when you go into the fire? You get burned, right? Fully clothed, it says. They had clothes. What lights first on fire before your skin starts to melt? Your clothes, right? Eventually you die. But that didn't happen. That didn't happen. Science did not work in this instance. And we put a lot of faith in science today. But sometimes science is wrong. Sometimes science is wrong. And I love science. It's one of my favorite subjects. According to Rodney Stark, a sociologist, is that close enough? From Baylor University, according to Rodney Stark, the scientific revolution of the 16th and 17th century, which is responsible for so much of our modern advances that we utilize every day, was led by 98% of Christian scientists. 98% of the scientists that led that revolution were Christians. Science is possible only because God created this world not with disorder as evolution would require. Evolution, that everything just exploded in existence. Okay, it's like taking alphabet cereal, if you guys remember that. Alphabet cereal. And you spilled alphabet cereal on the floor. You shook the box out and poured it on the ground. Is it going to spell out, hey, Jeff, hope you have a nice day? Nope. It's going to be gibberish, right? That's what evolution would require. Science is possible because the heavens and the earth were created by God and created with order. And science is great, and science is awesome, but science is also limited. It's limited. And God lives outside of science. And there are times when he enters our world, intervenes into our moment, and has the ability to break the natural law and does the supernatural. Where A plus B does not equal C. You put a guy in the fire and he gets burned unless God intervenes. Verse 24, but suddenly Nebuchadnezzar jumped up in amazement and exclaimed to his advisors, didn't we tie up 3 men and throw them into the furnace? Yes, your majesty, we certainly did, they replied. Look, Nebuchadnezzar shouted. I see 4 men. There's 4 men in there. And they're no longer tied up. And they are walking around in the fire unharmed. And the 4th one looks like a god. More accurately, that word looks like a god is a godlike being. Possibly an angel, could even be Jesus. And King Nebuchadnezzar doesn't really know who it is, but he knows there's someone else in the fire. 2 things God does here. 1, SMA, they go into the fire, but they don't get burned. And the second thing, that God sends a heavenly being into the fire to join them there. They are unharmed and not alone. And oftentimes, God does not spare us from the flames, but he joins us there and is with us. And they are not alone in the flames or in the fire, and neither are we. We're not alone. In whatever circumstances you're going through, you are not alone. You're not alone. God is with us. God is with us. Verse 26, then Nebuchadnezzar came as close as he could to the door of the flaming furnace and shouted, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, servants of the... He recognizes that even though there's all these gods that he worships, even though he dedicates all these pieces of his kingdom to many different gods, there is a God above all the gods. There is a king above every king. It's the Most High God. It's whoever Shadrach or Meshach and Abednego know. They know the Most High God, who is all powerful, can do what no one else can do. Servants of the Most High God, come out. Come here. So Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, they stepped out of the fire. They walked out of the flames. And then the high officers, the officials, the governors, and the advisors, they went to look, to see, to inspect what's going on with these guys. And they noticed that the fire had not touched them. Not a hair on their necks was singed. Their clothing was not scorched. They didn't even smell like smoke. They were unscathed. They're unscathed. What happens when you fall into the fire? You get burned unless God decides to intervene. And he can. And he can. But I love their faith, right? I love their faith. See, our God, he can intervene, but even if he doesn't, they're willing to risk everything for God.